好，欢迎大家回来。接下来呢，A 轨这边是由 Stanly Lau 为我们带来的身为工程师应该要有的技能的这个议题分享。那 Stanly 呢，Stanly 是 ODD 的 Agile Coach。那他除了协助企业做组织和企业做技术上的敏捷赋能、敏捷转型，还有人员的 mindset 的敏捷转型之外呢，他同时也是新加坡敏捷社群的组织者。那今天要演讲的题目是，特别是在 Stanly 得到了这些敏捷知识之后呢，再回去做一个开发人员，做一个工程师的一个深深的体会。他是觉得，如果能够早一点拥有这些敏捷 mindset， 并且把敏捷的知识用在工程师的开发能力上面的话，应该会有很多的帮助，很多的提升，并且不断的进步。那现在就让我们邀请 Stanly 来跟我们聊一下，身为工程师应该要有的敏捷技能。
Thank you, Sherry. 可以听得到吗？听得清楚吗？
可以。
Okay. Morning, everyone. So, I'm from Singapore, and then I'm happy to share with you about my past experience, a learning journey that I have. So, the journey goes like this. In 2004. So I started out my career as a software developer, and then for about 6 years, I joined different companies as mostly working on Java, .NET, and a few other languages as well. So from small companies to large companies like Motorola, I've experienced different facets of facing corporations and being in a company where there's only 3 people. And then in 2010, I decided to jump into this being an agile coach. And at the beginning, it was very, very difficult for me because, I go into computer science because I can talk to computers. I don't wish to talk to people. But then as my journey goes on, I realized that there are more and more requirements for me to learn, expand my skills to other areas like public speaking, like how to be influential, how to influence people. And that led me to go into an agile coach in ODD. So I spent a good 8 years there in ODD. And at some point I decided that, hey, when I work with teams, I felt that I have probably forgotten how it is like being a software developer. So in 2018, I have yes.
不好意思，有学员反映说因为现在我们看到的 PowerPoint 是有2个 slide， 分别就是是不是把自己的就是下一个 slide 是要设隐藏。我们这画面我们同时会看到
我看一下，再从 share。对。Keynotes， 我先 share 这个，那我就 share desktop 吧。可能是因为 desktop 的关系。这样比较好吗？
可以，这样就是看到1页。
Thank you for highlighting. So because I think that I have forgotten what it is like being a software developer in a large company, in a corporation, I decided to opportunity to join a company and to be a software developer for at least a year. And so that was really a learning, an experiment in my life to go back being a software developer. I'm very curious what will happen. One up thinking I have a second chance to be a developer, and no, in fact it is not that it's not that difficult. No, it is quite there are plenty of opportunities if you want to go back to be a developer. So I joined GovTech, Singapore's government agency that is focusing on building the capabilities of technology in Singapore. So GovTech work with a lot of ministries and agencies in Singapore to build up their technology capability. So 1 year software engineer working on the product that a system that serve citizens and also people who are living in Singapore. And it is based on Ruby on Rails, and they are on a 2-week sprints. The team is about 15 people comprised of developers. QE stands for quality engineers, and also BA, business analyst, and product owner. So when I joined here, at the beginning I still maintain a bit of my like agile coach hat, that's saying that, oh yeah, no, this is not right, or this is not using proper usage of the terms that they use, and so on and so forth. But I decided to hold back, to step back, and decide to just, I'm a software engineer now, and I'm being in a team to help to deliver the product together. So I decided to follow whatever process that they are having at that point in time, and to observe and understand how people work. So what I saw at that time was that they have a lot of test automation, unit tests, end-to-end tests, and the end-to-end test takes a very long, more than 1 hour to run, and are flaky. Flaky means that sometimes it passes, sometimes it fails. And on top of that, there were a lot of big code mergers, merging of code after a few days or 1 or 2 weeks, causing accidental overwriting code from each other from the mergers, and that causes more delays. We practice pair programming, but when the stress or the pressure comes near the release, often what will happen is that one person will solely work on that story, and other person will pick up another story, and we create more silos. And we create more silos, individuals who learn more about this part of the functionality, when he or she goes to is away for medical leave or on leave, the team is stuck. There's bottleneck. And frequently they have partially done stories, and partially done stories overflow from one sprint to another sprint. It causes anxiety and also doubts from the product owner. The product owner would usually talk to the Scrum Master or the people who are more senior in the team to ask them why is this happening, and this has been going on for quite some time, which isn't healthy at all. So many user stories are queued also in a column called ready for QA, because there's only 1 to 2 quality engineers. Refactoring would take weeks. It is a huge refactoring, and it often breaks many parts. They will branch out from a code and then from the master and try to refactor, and after a few weeks they will try to merge, and then everything breaks. It takes a one or two weeks in order to recover from that, and you can imagine a lot of bruises, bruises and blood have been suffered. Developers also rotate out to other products, because GovTech is a agency that provides developers to ministries and agencies, and in order to help these developers, engineers, to keep their interest high in this work, when there are developers who after a few years they felt that they wanted to change of environment, then there's this concept of rotating developers out to other products, other agencies, and replaced with new hires. And I also noticed that there is a gap between users and development QE. As a software engineer myself and being a QE, we rarely talk to the users directly. And usually it is the business analyst and the product owner who would have conversations and meetings with them a lot. So, let me get back to this slide. What I see this and what I see how the team cope with them is that they just work harder and harder. Test automation takes long to run. They'll just take more careful steps to not to break the test, and then it will run again, and hopefully that it will pass. They will try to fix by doing some quick fix for the test automation to pass. Big code mergers, they'll try to be more careful and increase the level of communication. Stories queued in ready for QA. The QE will try to work harder, and refactoring takes weeks. It's like that is to accept that is the fact. It will just take weeks. Whenever we need large refactorings, but often this impact is taken as for granted. So this helped me recall relates to Jerry Weinberg, who says, if what happens is a random series of events, it doesn't matter what people do, they just need to work harder. But many times in our work, it is not. These problems that we see that happen is not random at all. There are contributing factors that influence this to the problems that we see or the symptoms that we see. So what I did when I was as a software engineer there, a long test automation run, I go into the code and try to find out what really happened, and found that there are a lot of sleep methods to slow down the test automation, so that they can wait for that UI element to appear, so that the test automation can continue with it in order to make it less flaky. Ironically, because of the increase of sleep, it increases the flakiness as well. And people put more sleep also because the code is so complex. It's hard to understand whether if these sleeps are actually important. The big code mergers is delaying integration. When we delay integration, we delay the risk. We batch up the risk. And so I introduced continuous integration practice and to encourage frequent integration. So we tackle the mergers in smaller pieces, so that it's easier to find out what's going on, what's going wrong. And Parrington Solo, I introduced task boards and share work and to make work visible so that it can be shared. People, it's easy to contribute, to pick up tasks to help out. Partially done stories overflow from one sprint to another sprint. I facilitated. I noticed that there is some elephant in the room that the people know behind their mind, but they're not actually talking about it. So there's some tension in the team. I facilitated a retrospective for the product owner and team to express their concerns directly. So after that, the product owner would actually have more conversations with the devs directly about what is really happening, rather than going to the depending on the team leads, tech leads, or even the scrum masters to find out this information. So that kind of like reduced some tension at that time. And I surfaced the issue of many stories are being queued for QA and there's limited QE, and I bring the topic about shared responsibility, that anyone who could help out with the work should do so, because we are in the same boat. And then also for refactoring, I delivered a refactoring workshop to educate more about what is refactoring, how to make it small steps, and pair with people my team members to apply refactoring. Developers rolling out to other products, it is very difficult for the business, the agency or the ministry that I'm in, because this means that they will lose productivity. And it lose productivity to them is impact because they have releases that's lined up for a few years. And what I was involved in the conversation is to reduce the impact that when we talk about having the developers to rotate out, reduce the increase the understanding of what is a bigger picture of why that is required. And we don't do that just blindly without considering the business concerns. So I was involved in conversations to also take notice of the business concerns so that they won't feel that you are doing this just for your sake and you don't care about us. So we have some difficult conversations about that. So Jonathan has a question that asks about how do you describe the culture? Is it supportive or more dominated? That's an excellent question. Within that ministry I'm in this office, just this office is that whole building is the ministry, and there are different levels. Other levels are the businesses. There are officers who process applications, making policies for the government and so on and so forth. Only this office, this floor, compared to other floors, the culture is much more supportive and more empowerment. All the other floors, they are pretty top down. They work top down approach, command and control. Being inside it's like a small bubble within a ecosystem. I can also get to see how the management in bubbles trying to let signal how leak into this bubble. Yeah. So I have a lot of empathy about for them. When I do this action and do chefs and workshops and so on, then I think in Chinese there's a term called 灵魂出窍. I was like seeing myself floating behind me, pairing with people, and then seeing that, hey, what I see, the now me is different from how I was used to be in the past. And focus on how to implement. When you give me a requirement, I'll think about, okay, how do I implement this? What are classes I should create? Where are the places I should change? And that's about it. I still recall my bosses tell me that you need to understand what is the that led them to come up with this requirement. And I think when that comes into this year, then it just goes out to the other year. I'm so busy with focusing on how to implement. When I work with my peers in my team in the past, in my first time being a developer, I often focus on what is my part. As long as I do my part, can finish my part, then I'm satisfied. I rarely think about other people. Only when I think about other people, when I'm depending on them and they haven't do their part, then I will get annoyed. So very much inward focus. And this would relate to the diagram on the right. In the perspective of self, others, and context, considering myself, my needs, considering of other people's needs and other people's interests, considering the situation we're in, the project we're in, context, I very much only focus on myself. And that is for the first 8 years of my career, focus on myself. I also addicted to firefighting because there's very little test automation and there are bugs surface. I try to improve my program structure, but often it will still leads to a lot of bugs, and then I'll get involved in bugs. And I feel this satisfaction whenever I fix a bug in the production. Yeah, okay, but then another one came up, so I get addicted to that. The first few parts also led me to think about how much I am being an order taker. An order taker is like a just take orders, and then I'll do whatever you say. That is very much what I've done in the past. I also find ways to use. I like new technologies. I like to learn about what are the libraries, frameworks that is available, and I'll try my best to find opportunities to use it. I'll try to convince my peers, my bosses that, oh, this new project, okay, we should use this. And this is still goes back to myself, my interests. I didn't consider whether does it make a business. So what makes the difference? How come that in my life as a developer and my second life as a developer has so much difference? I think one of it is I see it as a quest. One of the main differences is that if I see the actions that I did for my first life and second life, it really depends on how much I know and what I know. So actions are limited by what I know, what we know, what I know. And how I judge also depends on how much I know. If I don't, take for example that how I judge this user story is, as much as in my first life, what I know is mostly about my code base and the technology stack that I'm using. When that happens, my perspective is only about how do I develop it better. But when my second life as a developer, I see the bigger picture. How does it impact? How does it helps the user achieve their problems? Then that would affects my judgment, and my judgment also affects the actions that I can have. Also, prior to my second life as a developer, I also as an agile coach, I exposed to many topics. This is topics that expand what I know. Like family therapy has a lot to do about self-work, about what emotions I have and how aware I am about that would affect how I would see problems and think about problems clearly. Coaching facilitation, systems thinking, Scrum extreme programming, about delivering value, software craftsmanship about being a profession, accountable for and being responsible for the things that you do, and improving your work, improving learning. This greatly expand to about what I know. However, there's a difference between what you know and what you own. So when you hear a talk like this, you get ideas. At that point in time, you're only renting. You're only renting it as this is an idea. How do you know whether is it rent or is versus own? You know it when we rent ideas, we would tend to have a lot of doubt. No, it probably wouldn't apply to me. It doesn't apply to my situation. Self-managing team, in our company doesn't work. But when we own that idea, it is very different. We'll be asking questions like, how can I make that possible? And what are the few obstacles we will meet first that we need to challenge in order to get there? So this is very, very different. And I think I have the luxury and also the opportunity to learn about these ideas and also to own them during my journey as an agile coach. So looking back, with these skills, what are the few things that I feel that earlier in my first life as a developer? Self-work is the first thing, and I wish that more than 10 years ago, I've learned this first. Self-others context. So in the earlier diagram, I show that I very much only focus on myself. And if I know about this earlier, I would be able to ask questions about others, ask questions about what is important for you. So I can ask this question to the business users. I can ask this question to my peers, my colleagues, to understand what interests them, that led them to make certain decisions or choose certain solutions. And then I would also open up the understanding of the context. The context will help me to ask questions like, what are the constraints we currently have in our project, and what are the rules? How are the rules being created? So sometimes even in order to challenge the rules, sometimes rules created in companies or in your organization is based on what happened at time, but it is not valid now. So many meetings, some meetings are there because of something happened at that time. But when we look at now and try to challenge to understand the context behind, we might be able to discover certain meetings are not required now, and maybe we can remove it. In part, observation is not equals to interpretation. To be able to separate this. So whenever for example, when I do not know this difference, when I see my when I see my colleague, my peers and team members would only focus on keep focusing on the story that he or she is working on, and that is for a few days. For a few days, and he or she in a daily stand-up they only mention about, I'm still working on this. I'm still working on the story. There are some problems over there, and very vague. In the past, when I do not know these differences, I may immediately judge that this person is doesn't reveal what is really happening at their meeting. And I also recall that in the past that when I ask some question, do you need any help? Then I get a very defensive reaction from him or her. So I would form this judgment. I jump into conclusion about what this person is. So that itself is actually, thinking back, is not really constructive, because then what is my actions? My actions could only be angry. My actions could only be complain to some other team leads or management that this person has a problem. That's very limiting. If I separate this observation and interpretation, I can even have a conversation with that person saying that, hi John, I noticed that you have worked on this item for 3 sprints, and I couldn't tell much about from your stand-up updates. I couldn't tell much about what are you facing, and I guess you probably have some struggles with it, and I wish I could help. Because we are the sprints, we come up with a plan together as a team, and I wish that I could do something so that we can help to achieve the goal in our sprints. Could you please let me know tell me more about how are you doing on the story? So I could, if I separate this, and I would be able to express my observation. And yes, solve conflict in dealing with different perspective by sharing your observation, and sharing observation are what you see and what you tried, and also sharing the context to that person itself can I believe so can increase the possibility of the other people to listen and to understand than my reactive reaction to him or her. So this is so important that when sometimes people would say, be more open-minded. What does be more open-minded mean? I see this as one of the strategy, and techniques to go how to be more open-minded. And of course, through family therapy, you learn more about like different layers of feelings and sharings, and the reaction that I say just now is really on the coping stance and behavior. What is you see on the top? So this is an iceberg. Most people only see your behavior, and within itself you have defenses and copings, and even deeper you have feelings, and very deep parts you have these yearnings. I realized that I discovered that the basics humans need is feeling being valued. You know, how to be valued? There are two ways. It's coming from other people that express their value to, that express their appreciation to you, or it can come from within, that you appreciate yourself for what you have done or what you have gone through. So a person will get reactive and will not, I do not, in my first life as a developer, there are many times I find myself being reactive and not be able to think clearly. It's because I don't feel being valued. I somehow would have the need of other people to get a value from other people to be validated. And when not being met, then I don't think clearly. So I wouldn't be able to solve problems in a better way. So self-work is absolutely very important. First thing to have. So other skill to have is also about systems thinking. What is the problem? Sessions later on in this, you understand more about what is systems thinking. But very short one here is long-running automated tests. So in the team, they often, before I joined, they often say that, no, that is a problem that we have. But then I question, is that really the problem? If you look further into it, now, I realized that, yes, you have delays in the automated tests that results to delay in feedback. Delay in feedback, before the next test run, we need to make sure that when our code is merged. And we tend, because it runs very long, so we tend to accumulate even more code changes. And with more code changes, we increase the chances that the test will break, because there could be many changes that will fail the test. And when the regression fail, we will get panic. We add more workarounds and hacks into the test code and increase the test code mess. That mess makes us more difficult to find out how to solve the problem, and add more hacks like adding more sleeps, because flaky test is also increasing. And add more sleep would increase the duration of the automated tests. What is the problem here? So long-running automated tests is only a symptom that I see. And if I were to understand this, the bigger picture behind, maybe in the past I would be able to solve, being closer to solve the real problem, like taking away some of the sleeps. Other parts like development practices, I learned as an Agile coach, test-driven development. I have great mentors that mentored me and taught me on these few practices. And this, I think that the key point about these practices is to drive your development from feedback. If the shorter feedback you can get, the better. Because feedback is also about learning and also tackling risks. Software craftsmanship is an ideology. It's an idea about what does it mean being a developer as an engineer. We see software development as a craft to learn. It's a learning journey, and a long journey to mastery. Maybe will not ever get there. I wouldn't consider myself a master. I'm still learning, and the attitude to bring towards as a software craftsman. It's not just an order taker. You take a story and you do, and then that's it. But you're also responsible for looking at the bigger picture. How does this impact the business? what are the challenges that the business have, and then what solutions can I provide? What help do they need, like in presentation on ideas about software features? I would, when you see that as an aspect, you are more like a profession that you are. It's like a package, providing a package for the business, and it's a partnership with them rather than I'm an employee and then you're my employer, and therefore I do whatever you say. No, it shouldn't be that kind of relationship. It's more of a partnership relationship. So Sandro, who is the author of the one of those books, Software Craftsman, in fact, I invited him for a talk in the Agile Singapore a few days ago. He talked about software modernization. Many companies tries to use new technologies for their business, and often it fails because it doesn't align to the business problems. And he is also the founder of the Software Craftsmanship group in London, and he lives in UK. In Software Craftsmanship, there is this on your manifesto. There's this phrase called principle called technical excellence. So you say that excellence, referring to technical excellence, cannot be unbounded. No, we will lose sight of the business value. So excellence has to be bounded by pragmatic solutions, meaning that you have a monolith with a big ball of mud, and that is not serving business well. And then it's not, technical excellence doesn't mean that, oh, now the hype is microservices, so therefore we should make this bigger ball of mud and monolith into microservices, and we should spend a lot of investment on it. That doesn't make sense at all. We need to first understand what is business problem. And he gave an example of how driving from the business needs, and they shifted from a big ball of mud monolith into modular monolith, not even to microservices, and that could solve business problem, and the cost is much lower. So with all these skills, you can learn on your own, watch videos, books, articles on the internet, but really boiling down to how far you can go depends on how if you have a guide. Like I was a few weeks ago on Sunday, one of the Sundays, me and my colleagues went for archery. Archery, you shoot and the arrow into the board, and it's my first time trying that. So when I first tried to shoot, I was aiming using the arrow to aim the board as a target. And then it took very long for me to do that. And then it was the pull of the bow itself is quite tiring on my left arm. So the coach actually saw this, and then he came to me and says, don't look at the arrow to point. And I was thinking, how did he know that I was using the arrow to point? He says, use your left arm to guide you, and then shoot. And then based on that, on the next try, you shift a little bit based on your left arm. So when I was so surprised that how did he know that? So I tried his technique, and then I realized that actually it works much better. And I don't find myself needing to hold the bow for so long to aim. And therefore I have more energy for the next round of shooting. So now I begin to know about, okay, this is a way to do it. And then he told me that, if you want to, after the whole exercise, he told me that if you want to learn how to use the arrow to shoot, it is a more advanced level. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, you can actually use the arrow to shoot, but that is something I do not know, the unknown. I know I do not know. So in retrospect, I begin with unknown. I thought I try something first, and then he told me about, okay, use the left arm. then I realized that how much I do not know at all in how to practice. But he actually is in the known space. I at the beginning is probably in the unknown. With a guide, it actually helped me to expand what I know, and it is really, really useful. I think compared to 20 years ago, I think nowadays we do have a lot of guides. You have a lot of people in the community helping to guide, and most of the practices that I mentioned earlier, there are more and more people knowing how to own that idea and so know how to approach that. So I hope that next time, as you pair with your team member, instead of taking the story and then immediately going to the solution or how to implement or where to change and so on and so forth, maybe you could ask a question. What is the purpose of this story? You could ask the question, what we originally thought about the solution, what are we missing? What is the terrain like in front of us? So I hope that from this talk, it could inspire you to some of these topics, and also hopefully could help you to expand your perspectives as a developer, if you're a developer, to motivate you to learn about other people's consideration, and also the context. That's all I have. Thank you. Yes. We have time for questions.
谢谢 Stanley， 大家有其他问题吗？广告吗？已经问了。好，那就进广告喽。
哦，有一个问题是 Jonathan，Can you share one most nightmare in the automation? Yeah, the most nightmare. Yeah, 这是噩梦吧 ，nightmare 。the most nightmare I would say is for consecutive from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we try to run the test, the pipeline, and it fails, red color, and run again. We really keep track very closely. Even through midnight, we try to run to make it pass, but it fails again and again. It's because once you run, if it fails, you have to rerun everything again. So I think we spent like 3 days waiting, 3 or 4 days waiting for that. Then I said, oh, really, we cannot do this anymore. We need to have the ability to only rerun the specific test that fails. And we went on to to check if Cucumber has that functionality, and apparently Cucumber has. And we introduced that change in, and after that, people do not have to rerun the whole test suites again. So that was one of the nightmares. Thanks for the question. The other question, would you share more how to bring cross-membership mindset to the team? Well, cross-membership. Oh, well, I would like you to first to read a few books about the software craftsman, so that you not only rent the idea, you also own the idea. When you own the idea, it is more easier for other people to understand the idea, because they'll see it from, you really understand it and you're passionate about it. That will increase your chance of influencing your team members about being a craftsman. So that would be the first thing to do. You could do it like as a form of talk, but I tend to prefer to do it through like a coding dojos. Coding dojos is where you would have a designated time, maybe 2 hours. You come up with one exercise, and then everybody try to solve that problem together and think of different ways to solve that problem. That itself is actually doing. And when you do that for a few times, and then you give the talk about software craftsman and relate to that, people would be able to resonate with it more. And that will be much more powerful when you share the concept about software craftsman. And next question, can you share what can enrich your Agile coach career in this special experience? What can enrich your Agile coach? So what's interesting is getting back to this diagram, my journey. So after being a 1-year software developer, I went back to being an Agile coach. Interestingly, I see myself, another reflection back how I used to be as an Agile coach with the experience of being a developer. I think it is perhaps if you're an Agile coach now or you're a Scrum Master now, try to be a product owner or try to be a developer for some period of time. And then when you go back as a Scrum Master or coach, it will give you a lot of deep insights. It will incur a lot of reflections to your career, and that will help you to surface what do you need to know more to enrich your career as a coach or Scrum Master. You can enrich your future coach career. So for me personally, when I get back to being a coach, I became more empathic about software developers that I pair with in teams. Why is because I'm an external coach. So developers who is especially in large companies, they are not only busy with like development, but they're also busy with a lot of policies and nonsense in the organization. Having them to do performance appraisals, having them to be called for certain meetings, for certain organization needs, hiring people, and so on and so forth. So that is I have more empathy on them when I share some ideas with them, and then they don't seem to get the idea. I tend to be to understand more what is going on, and I tend to be more accept that as that is okay. And then I find another time to check up with them on how they are doing on the practices. So I think that's one of the main key things that I learned as when I go back to being an Agile coach. Thank you for all the questions. Yeah. I think we are good.
还有问题吗？哦，有新的问题。
More resources to learn about Agile coach. Sure. More resources to learn about Agile coach. No.
是不是要报名 ODDE 的课程？
I think there's more than enough materials about Agile stuff in there. I would encourage you to look into Virginia Satir of work. There are a lot of books on that, and that will really expand your perspectives. And I think that is the underlying base. If your base or foundation is good, let me send it to everyone. I accidentally this one. Yeah. So as a base, it helps you to. This is the base that allows you to see more things and open more doorways to see different things in resources. So I encourage you to look at that, Vision Satya model. If you have not, yeah, that will be my short answer. Thank you for the questions.
谢谢 Stanley 精彩的演讲。